Speaking of progress, speaking of modernity versus, the more ancestral lens of things, you've been speaking out quite a bit and raising your voice in this space of kind of like modern feminism is a bit of a myth, a bit of a bait and switch, that women aren't really designed to be like slotted into this 9 to 5 life. Say more about your evolving thought process on that.
Yeah. I To start, I think women should do whatever they want to do. I also think that women have been led to believe or led to want something that they never innately would have wanted. Um, I, to take it back, I would have considered myself a feminist in college because, yeah, I woke up and I was like, I don't understand, why there are differences between men and women. We should all be equal. Um, and now, granted, when I had this perspective, I still probably would have said, well, women shouldn't get drafted for war, though. And I think since then, I have had this whole evolution, especially learning about women's hormonal health.
Hmm. Hmm.
There are innate differences between male and female. Just our chromosomes are innately different. We have XX and XY. Like, to say that we're equal and the same is like, well, that's just not true. And so learning more about the menstrual cycle and women's hormonal cycle, I was realizing that, okay, this cadence for life is what I'm learning is healthy for women is different than the actual cadence that I've been living and that most women are living, which is, let's just call it the corporate 9 to 5 or your
Right.
regular 9 to 5.
Which,
And
sorry to interrupt, would it be
yes,
safe to say that's more of like a masculine adopted paradigm? Because I think the differences in cycle is really profound, right? That men's cycles, if we want to call it that, are basically a 24-hour period, and women's
yes,
cycles are 28 days.
yes,
And the
yeah,
work life, the corporate beast, is a 24-hour cycle. It's basically clock in, go, go, go. Maybe you get a couple of days off of the weekend, but just keep going, honey.
yeah. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And so, um, Henry Ford, not Harrison Ford, Henry Ford, that's the car guy, right?
Not
Henry
Obi-Wan.
Ford,
No, not the guy that drives the Millennium Falcon.
yes, created the 40-hour work week. And so, okay, this work week was created by a man. And okay, let's not just throw it out because it was created by a man, but let's be clear, this was designed by a man. And at the time, most people in the workforce were men. So there's that. So now, flash forward to 2025, we have women working this corporate 9 to 5, following this cycle that was created and designed by a man for men, basically, is what I'm going to say. And just to your point of this corporate 9 to 5 is masculine. I mean, it is, because the male hormone cycle is on a 24-hour cycle. And that is the 9 to 5. It's the same every day,
Yeah.
24 hours, versus the female hormone cycle is 28 days, which means you push harder and rest longer at
Mm.
different times in your cycle. And so realizing this, and then realizing I'd never been taught this
Right.
until, I mean, basically chiropractic school, but even in chiropractic school, they just kind of glazed over it. I mean, we talked about the nuts and bolts of the female hormone cycle, but obviously it's not an anthropological course. We didn't really talk about the societal effects of this. It just was like, here's the female hormone cycle. And I think since then I've kind of extrapolated a bit more to realize, okay, if this is actually how our hormones work, why are we living like this?
Yeah.
And there's all this rave of cycle syncing, and that's something that I talk about quite a bit because I was working out. This also played a role in the losing 30 pounds, was cycle syncing, like actually tapping into femininity and living like a woman's body should live, or should, I mean, wants to live hormonally. um I was trying to PR in the gym at any time in my cycle.
Right.
There was no reverence at all for the shifts in my hormones, and I was going out to run, and I ran a marathon and I just trained for months and was just pushing and pushing and pushing. Um, and now where I'm at is I'm the healthiest I've ever been because I am living in a more in sync
Yeah.
hormonally paradigm. Yeah.
I mean, it totally makes sense, right? Speaking here as a guy, obviously, with a lack of nuance for what it actually feels like to live in a body that has such distinct phases. But I heard I'm blanking on the name now, but I heard a female MMA fighter talking about this recently. So these are top tier athletes, right? The date gets picked. All right. You are going to fight on January 25th. Where does the cycle consideration come in for that? Because what if that's in your X phase that is not the moment where you want to go, punch another chick's head off her shoulders, right? You want to like cuddle up on the couch. So she was saying, obviously, that impacts things like how hard it is to cut weight for that competition. So what's the solution? Well, you could just get on birth control, right? Because now you can control it. Now you've got it like more, you get the chemical castration side of things, and at least it's predictable. But that's just trading, one problem for another one that has all this other cascade of biological problems. And, we could wax philosophical about the example given here anyway, that women are fighting in a cage. And that does seem quite masculine, doesn't it? But everybody's down to do whatever they want to do. And some of these women are incredibly skilled badasses. And I wouldn't want to get in the cage with them. But that's where we end up, right? Is like, oh, well, this then, meaning female physiology, is a problem. It's a problem, and it doesn't match with this world that we have to live in. So here are the solutions. And it's the pill, and it's just shut up and work a little bit harder and ignore your body. And, cycle syncing's a myth. These are just a bunch of hippies talking about nonsense. Just get on with it, have a cup of tea, pop a Tylenol, and you'll be sweet. And it's just like, it's crazy to me to think about, but it must be very frustrating to be a woman in this world sometimes and be like, why is nobody talking about this?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I get this from my patients a lot too, because they'll come in with hormonal issues, or they'll come in with an issue that they don't even realize is hormonal. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just sit down and talk about this. And, they're at the ripe age of 35 and have never heard about this before, didn't even know that there were phases to their cycle. And I think in that sense, right, because I think there's some feminists that are fighting for women to have this information, right? It's not like, oh, women are equal. Like, what we're fighting for is like women to have this information. And I'm totally in support of that, because yes, in certain regards, it is frustrating-ish to live in a society that has no regard for the female hormonal cycle. And yeah, it's something that we're not taught in schools. And so really, honestly, like, what I'm calling for is a revolution. Like, we're going to have to start teaching this in schools at a young age. And I'll get comments that are like, oh, well, it's just not realistic to, center our society around the female hormonal cycle. And it's just like, well, maybe we need a revolution or some sort of thing. And we don't even have to center society around it. But hey, let's teach young girls.
At least.
Like, yes, like, let's just educate. I'm not saying out with the 9 to 5, burn it all down. I'm not saying that. But I do think that there are ways that as a society we could better support femininity. And in the same breath, there's ways we could better support masculinity.
All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps to spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.